Welcome, the chosen ones. This is a direct transmission from God Connection, and it is not a message of comfort. It is a message of confirmation. When you lose a real one, the silence that follows does not just echo, it indicts you. Some people did not just fumble you. They face-planted when heaven handed them something sacred. And now, in the deafening quiet of their self-imposed exile, they feel like complete and utter idiots. But here is the twisted part. In the moment of their betrayal, they actually believed they were winning. They arrogantly mistook your kindness for naivete, your unwavering loyalty for desperation, and your divine light for something they could dim, control, and exploit at their leisure. Now, they are lying awake at night in a cold bed made entirely of their own bad decisions, rereading your old messages like they are trying to decode ancient scripture. They are stalking your social media profiles as if your new life holds the secret key to their salvation. They are waking up with a jolt at 3:33 a.m., haunted by the stark, simple truth that is now tormenting their soul. You are not just someone special. You were their spiritual lifeline. Statistically speaking, over 70% of people do not realize the true value of what they had until it is permanently gone. But the pain hits differently when what they lost was divinely sent. This is not a simple case of buyer's remorse. This is a deep and profound soul regret. And it does not come with a return policy. Now, they are telling mutual friends how badly they messed up, whispering confessions of their foolishness. But it is far too late. You have already glowed up, healed up, leveled up, and backed all the way out of their spiritual bankruptcy. So grab your tea, because we are about to break this down, layer by brutal layer. Why they feel like fools, why your memory is haunting them, and why they will never, ever have access to your sacred energy again. Let us get into it. Number 1. They fumbled a soul contract meant to change their entire bloodline. They did not just mess up a simple relationship. They fumbled a sacred soul contract. And this is not some spiritual fluff. This was a real, binding, divine agreement. You were not in their life by accident or by chance. Your connection was divinely scheduled, pre-agreed upon in the heavenly realms before either of you even got here. The powerful bond between you was specifically designed to trigger a profound transformation, a deep healing, and a significant elevation, not just for them as an individual, but for their entire bloodline. Your very presence in their life was the divine break in their generational curses. You were the spiritual shift that their ancestors had cried out and prayed for. But instead of honoring that sacred assignment, they treated it like it was common, ordinary, and disposable. They confused the holy with the mundane. You came into their life carrying rare spiritual gifts for them: deep insight, overflowing grace, unconditional love, and the spiritual keys that could have unlocked their destiny. And they, in their blindness, chose chaos over your clarity. You were patient with their unhealed trauma. You were gentle with their hidden wounds. And you were forgiving in ways that they had never experienced before and will likely never experience again. That was not just love. That was a divine intervention. That was heavenly grace cloaked in human skin, sent directly to them. But instead of rising to meet that divine frequency, they chose to sink deeper into their own dysfunction. They arrogantly thought that you would always be there, that you would endlessly tolerate their disrespect, that you would survive their silent treatments, that you would endure their betrayals, and that you would just keep showing up. They made this fatal miscalculation because they did not understand the nature of a chosen one. We do not stay in places that insult our divine assignment. Now, they are waking up to the harsh reality they so desperately tried to avoid. They have lost something that can never be recreated. Not just you as a person, but the entire spiritual opportunity that your presence came with. They have lost the sacred mirror that showed them their own higher self. They have lost the divine portal that was actively pulling them into alignment. And even worse, they have broken a sacred covenant, not just with you, but with their own destiny. The crushing guilt that they feel now is not just about you moving on and thriving. It is about the deep, soul-level knowing that they were handed a holy thing, and they mishandled it with profane hands. And that shame is a heavy, suffocating weight, because deep down, They know that another opportunity like that is not coming. You were their one divine turning point, their living, breathing redemption arc. And they did not just walk away from you. They walked away from the very best version of themselves they were ever going to meet. Number 2, they thought they were smarter until life started falling apart without you. They genuinely believed they were outsmarting you. They were convinced that they could play their manipulative mind games, disappear for days, lie with a straight face, and that you would never catch on. They assumed you would just keep coming back, questioning yourself, begging them for clarity, while they stayed 2 steps ahead, feeling smug and comfortable in their illusion of control. But what they so foolishly failed to realize is that you were not clueless. You were patient. You were watching. You were praying. You were processing. You were learning. You were giving them the sacred space to grow up, not the rope to hang themselves with. They tragically mistook your silence for stupidity. And that was the exact moment they sealed their fate and started losing. Now that you are gone, everything in their life is systematically falling apart. The same uncanny luck they seemed to have when you were around has completely vanished. The deep sense of peace they only felt when they were near you has evaporated into thin air. The clarity, the confidence, the creativity that flowed so easily from them has all dried up. Why? Because they were feeding off your energy the entire time and did not even know it. They honestly thought that they were the prize, the genius, the leader. But the truth is, it was your powerful, stabilizing presence that was holding everything in their chaotic life together. You were their balance, without you even trying to be. Your spirit naturally created order where there was none. Your prayers for them, your unwavering emotional support, your wise guidance, that was their stability. And now that it is gone, their life has become loud, chaotic, and completely unstable. The same people they tried so hard to impress with their lies and performances are now slowly but surely backing away from them. Nothing feels right for them anymore. They cannot sleep like they used to. They cannot breathe like they used to. Because when they lost you, they lost the divine favor that came attached to your anointing. They never realized that you were the reason their life felt lighter. You were the reason they had that incredible streak of blessings. They thought they were just on a lucky roll. Now, they are slowly coming to the horrifying realization that it was not just luck, it was you. And they blew it. They traded a divine, long-term strategy for a quick, petty ego boost. They were so desperate to win a game that did not even exist. And in doing so, they lost the only person in the world who was genuinely rooting for their soul. Number 3, they wanted to be the main character in your story, but you were the script. They actively tried to outshine you in your own life, acting as if they were the star of the show and you were merely the supporting act. They treated your sacred journey as if it were their personal stage. They wanted the credit for your ideas, the attention for your accomplishments, and the applause for your glow. But they forgot one fundamental thing. You were the blueprint. Everything they admired about you, everything they secretly copied from you, or everything they tried to compete with, came directly from your innate originality. The unique way you think, the graceful way you move, the powerful energy you carry. It simply cannot be duplicated. But that did not stop them from trying. They tried to steal your light and build a false identity with it. They completely forgot that you were not reading from a script. You are the script. They mimicked your ideas, they parroted your values, and they even started using your unique language, desperately hoping to get the same love and respect that you earned so naturally. But the reason that people genuinely gravitated toward you had absolutely nothing to do with your looks or your performance. It was about the profound purity that was behind everything you did. You do not act real. You are real. You do not pretend to care. You do care deeply. They foolishly thought that they could imitate the results of your life without having to embody the integrity of your character. And that is precisely where their entire plan fell apart. Now, they are left with a collection of empty performances and no audience. Because people can always feel the difference between what is authentic and what is forced. The very moment you stepped away from them, the truth of their hollow character showed up. The attention they craved has faded. The admiration they received has all dried up. They are now stuck, desperately trying to maintain a role they were never meant to play. And it is completely exhausting them. Because faking what comes so naturally to you is a full-time job that they simply cannot keep up with. They wanted to be the main character in your story, but your story was never up for co-starring roles. You were sent to this earth to lead, to shift the atmosphere, and to birth significant change, not to be overshadowed by a spiritual imposter. And now they feel completely lost without you, because you were the storyline that was holding their entire sense of self together. You gave their life depth, meaning, and a forward momentum. Without you, it is all just noise, all flash, and no substance. They did not just lose a connection. They lost the entire plot of their life. Number 4. They did not just lose you. They lost their last chance at redemption. They did not just lose you as a person. They lost their one and only shot at a real, lasting redemption. You were their divine loophole, the one person who was sent into their life not just to love them, but to help them completely reroute their entire bloodline. Your presence in their life was not a random occurrence. It was a divine intervention. You were the designated turning point, the rare and precious chance for them to finally break the chains of dysfunction, addiction, abandonment, and emotional immaturity, all of the toxic patterns that ran rampant in their family and had been silently ruling their life. You were the only one who was strong enough, spiritually equipped enough, and patient enough to face their inner demons and still see their highest potential. But they did not recognize the gift that was standing right in front of them. They treated you like a temporary phase, like someone who was easily replaceable. They downplayed the profound connection. They denied the spiritual pull they felt towards you. They mocked your unwavering loyalty, and they let their fragile ego write checks that their soul could not possibly cash. What they failed to understand is that divine grace has an expiration date, especially when it is constantly being spit on. You were not going to stay forever in a space where you were being spiritually and emotionally bled dry. You did not just show up in their life with love. You showed up with healing. Your very energy exposed everything within them that needed to change. You served as a mirror to their broken parts and simultaneously gave them a safe space in which to grow. But they ran from that mirror. They ran back to what was comfortable, back to their toxic patterns, back to what was familiar, even if it was slowly killing them. And now that door of opportunity is closed. It is spiritually locked and bolted. You were the divine detour that they had likely prayed for, cried for, and maybe even begged the universe to send them. But they could not recognize the blessing because it did not come in the package that their ego had expected. They thought they had all the time in the world, but now they are seeing that some people, the divinely sent ones, only come once in a lifetime. And once they are gone, the whole cycle of pain and struggle resets for them. They are now right back in the agonizing loop, replaying the same traumas, facing the same brick walls, and wondering why nothing in their life is changing for the better. It is because the one person who could have helped them evolve, the one who carried the divine blueprints for their next level, has permanently exited their life. And this time, there is no second act, no encore, and no do-over. There is just the cold, painful, and eternal truth. They did not just lose a relationship, they lost redemption itself. Number 5. Your energy was the reason they were even liked. Let's not sugarcoat this truth. When you were in their life, they looked better, they sounded smarter, and they seemed more trustworthy to others. People naturally gravitated toward them, gave them chances they did not deserve, and praised them for qualities they did not actually possess. And it had absolutely nothing to do with their actual character. It was your energy doing all of the heavy lifting the entire time. Your presence single-handedly amplified their public image. You made them look stable, grounded, and spiritually connected, even when they were a complete mess behind the scenes. You spoke life into them when they were down. You corrected them in private so they would not be embarrassed. You covered for them in public, and you gave them access to a level of divine grace that they had not earned. They foolishly thought that their glow-up was all about them. They did not realize that you were the battery pack in their dead spirit. You carried a natural influence, a profound clarity, and an undeniable light, and that light could not help but spill over onto them. When people supported them, respected them, or trusted them, it was because you were standing right beside them, silently validating their existence just by being there. People felt your peace, your maturity, and your high frequency, and they mistakenly assumed that your partner was the same. But now that you are gone, the illusion has cracked wide open. People are finally starting to see it. Their charisma now feels forced. Their charm consistently falls flat. The positive attention they used to get is now turning into disinterest, side eyes, and silent withdrawals from their life. Because without you there to anchor them in a positive light, the unfiltered truth about who they really are is being exposed for all to see. What is left of them now is a raw, insecure, and petty individual with a false confidence and a personality that was built on whatever they thought worked when you were around. They were never the main attraction. You were. They just happened to be standing next to the real star. And now that the light has moved on, they are realizing with dawning horror that they cannot shine on their own, because it was never their glow to begin with. It was always yours. And the world is slowly but surely realizing it, too. The same people who used to hype them up are now asking their friends, "Where's so-and-so?" Because without your spirit in the picture, they no longer feel chosen. They just feel exposed. Number 6. They wanted control, but you were the blueprint. They were absolutely obsessed with being in control. They had a desperate need to dominate every conversation, every decision, and every emotional dynamic between you. They thought that if they could just hold the upper hand, they would never lose you. But they were foolishly playing a game of checkers against someone who had literally designed the chessboard. You were not there to compete with them or to overpower them. You were there to build something real, something eternal. But they could not recognize that because they were too focused on winning a petty game that did not even need to be played. They believed that keeping you off balance would make them feel powerful. They would withhold affection. They would give you backhanded compliments. And they would deliberately create confusion, all in an effort to maintain their fragile sense of control. What they did not realize is that while they were playing emotional checkers, you were holding the divine blueprints for a whole empire. You brought brilliant ideas, profound depth, a calming peace, a solid structure, and divine insight to the table, not from a place of ego, but from a place of deep spiritual alignment. Your quiet brilliance was meant to be the foundation for both of your lives. But because you did not shout it from the rooftops or shove it down their throat, they mistook it for weakness. They thought that your silence meant submission and that your humility meant inferiority. But you were not silent because you were scared. You were silent because you were focused. You were studying their patterns, you were reading their soul, and you were listening to the guidance of the Spirit. You were building while they were just bluffing. And now that you are gone, they finally get it. They were never the architect of their own success. They were just living in a beautiful space that you had designed. You carried the vision, the legacy, and the strategy. And they were too distracted by their own pathetic need to feel dominant to see the rare and precious value that was standing right in front of them. They traded the blueprint for the illusion of control, and now they are left with nothing but a pile of scattered pieces and no idea how to rebuild their shattered lives. The game is over. They may have won a few petty rounds in their own mind, but in the end, they lost the only person who was never even playing a game. Because you were not there for power, you were there for purpose. And now they finally see it, when it is far too late. We are now at the halfway point of this divine debriefing. The truth can be jarring, but it is also liberating. If this God connection message is confirming what your spirit has been trying to tell you, take a moment to affirm it. Subscribe to this channel so you can continue to receive the clarity and validation you deserve. As a prophetic act to seal your own spirit from ever being fumbled again, and to sow into the complete restoration of your own sacred energy, consider giving a $10 donation through the Super Thanks button. This is a powerful act of self-honor, a declaration to the universe that you finally recognize your own divine worth. Let's continue. Number 7. You were the only person who saw their soul and still chose them. You did not just see the person they pretended to be for the world, you saw the real them. You saw the scared, wounded, and deeply insecure version of them that was hiding behind the fake confidence and the polished mask. You saw the unhealed trauma that they never talked about. You saw the destructive patterns that they did not know how to break. You saw the immense guilt that they carried but would never admit to. And you did not run from it. You did not judge it. You loved them right there, in the middle of their mess, fully, honestly, and unconditionally. And that is the memory that now haunts them in the dead of night, because they know that nobody else ever did that for them. Everyone else in their life just loved what they showed them. The curated version, the impressive social persona, the highlight reel. But you went straight to their soul. You looked past their carefully constructed image and straight into their flawed humanity. And you stayed. You gave them a safe space to be raw without ever being punished for it. You gave them a love that they did not have to earn or perform for. That kind of profound acceptance is not just rare, it is sacred. But they were not ready for it. Maybe they did not believe that they deserved it. Maybe they were too damaged by their past to be able to receive it. Maybe they were simply addicted to their own dysfunction. Whatever the reason, they rejected it. Not with their words, but with their actions. They betrayed it, they tested it, and they mocked it, because something deep inside of them thought, there is no way this love is real. Let me destroy it before it fully exposes how broken I really am. And that is exactly what they did. Now, they are left with nothing but ghosts. The ghosts of what they felt when you looked at them like they actually mattered. The ghosts of how safe they felt in your presence, even when they said nothing at all. The ghosts of the version of themselves that they started to become when they were with you, the one that you believed in. That version is gone now, and they know it. They did not just lose a relationship. They lost a sacred mirror, a soul-level acceptance that simply does not come around twice in a lifetime. They are now surrounded by people who want their money, their body, or their status, but none of them want their actual soul. You did, and they spit on it. And now, no matter who they date, who they sleep with, or who they perform for, that haunting silence will remind them daily, you were the one. Number 8. Their ego celebrated when you left, but their spirit has not slept since. When you finally walked away, their ego threw a massive party. They desperately wanted to win the breakup, to look completely unaffected, to prove to everyone, and to themselves, that they did not need you. So they posted pictures of themselves having fun. They threw subtle shade at you online. They acted completely unbothered, and they maybe even said things to their friends like, "I'm so much better off now." But all of that was just noise. That was their pride talking. That was a scared little self, desperately trying to save face. Because underneath all of that hollow performance was a spirit that was completely unraveling. And it still is. They may have fooled the outsiders, but they could not fool their own soul. Because the moment you left, the silence in their life became deafening. The late nights became longer. The mirror became harder to look into. Everything they tried to distract themselves with, the people, the parties, the attention, could not fill the massive energetic void that your presence used to occupy. You were not just someone they were dating. You were peace in human form. You brought a clarity, a stability, and an emotional safety into their chaotic world. And now that you are gone, that chaos is all they know. They wake up from dreams of you that they cannot explain. They keep seeing numbers and synchronicities that remind them of you. They keep hearing songs and encountering people that bring you to mind in ways they cannot escape. The signs are not cute to them anymore. They are suffocating. Their soul is trying to scream over the loud noise of their pride, and it is completely exhausting them. Because the ego can celebrate all it wants, but the spirit does not lie. And the truth is, they are profoundly and spiritually restless. They cannot feel what you made them feel. They cannot unsee the glimpse of true healing that they experienced when they were around you. And now they are forced to live without it, knowing full well that they were the ones who pushed it away. The immense weight of that realization does not go away with time. It grows heavier. Because deep down, they know that you did not leave them in anger. You left in peace. And that kind of peace is exceedingly rare. Once it is gone, you cannot just manifest it back. You cannot fake it, and you cannot replace it. They tried to move on as if nothing significant had happened, but peace has a memory, and so does guilt. And now, both are keeping them up at night. Number 9. They thought your forgiveness meant you would stay forever. They genuinely thought that your forgiveness was an unlimited resource. Every single time they messed up and you gave them yet another chance, they took it as a confirmation that you would always be there. They believed that no matter what they did, the lies, the betrayal, the emotional neglect, you would just keep coming back to them. To them, your incredible compassion looked like a weakness. Your divine grace felt like a permission slip. They foolishly assumed that your love for them would always outweigh your own personal limits. But what they so tragically failed to realize is that forgiveness does not mean unlimited tolerance, and that divinely anointed beings have sacred boundaries that even their love will not override. You were not staying with them because you were blind. You saw everything. You felt every subtle shift, every manipulative tactic, every single moment. They made you feel like you were asking for too much just by wanting a basic level of respect. But you stayed because you believed in the transformative power of love. You thought that if you could just love them through their brokenness, they would eventually grow through it. You thought that if you were just patient enough, if you poured enough of your light into them, that something sacred would finally awaken within them. Instead, they just grew more careless and more entitled. They did not see your heart as a precious gift. They saw it as a mere convenience. So when you finally walked away, it completely shocked them. They did not think it would ever actually happen, because they were so used to you forgiving them that they never even prepared for the day that you would run out of reasons to. But that moment of your departure was not an emotional outburst. It was not a dramatic exit. It was a spiritual deadline. It was a moment that was written into your divine script, the day that grace would finally close the door. They did not know that you were sent to them with a timer, that your very presence in their life came with a divine purpose and a firm expiration date. And when that purpose was continuously violated and disrespected, heaven itself pulled you out of that situation, not to hurt them, but to protect your own sacred destiny. Because divine ones do not stay in endless cycles, they complete their assignments. And your assignment with them was over. Now they are stuck, trying to figure out what happened. But the truth is simple. They thought your forgiveness was forever. They did not know that it was actually their final warning. Number 10. They know deep down they will never be in the presence of that kind of purity again. They know it now. They may never say it out loud. They may never admit it to another living soul. But deep down, in their quietest, most honest moments, they know that they have fumbled the rarest kind of presence they will ever encounter in this lifetime. You were not just a good person, you were pure. And not in some superficial, perfect, or religious way. Your purity was in your intentions, in your honesty, in the very nature of your heart that loved without any hidden agendas. You wanted nothing but the absolute best for them, even when they did not know what that looked like for themselves. And now that you are gone, the absence of that purity is louder than anything else in their life. They have tried to replace it. They have desperately tried new relationships, new distractions, and even embarked on hollow self-improvement journeys. But nothing hits the same, because what they are chasing is not just a person. It is a feeling that they cannot recreate. It is that profound sense of calm that they only ever felt when you were near. It is that crystal clarity that would come to them just from hearing the sound of your voice. It is that feeling of safety that they had never experienced before you and will likely never have again. And that feeling was not just love, it was divine alignment. That was God Himself, working through you, to give them a small taste of what true peace really feels like. Now, they are haunted by the memory of how easily they took it all for granted, how they would roll their eyes when you tried to speak life into them, how they minimized your presence, dismissed your efforts, and acted as if your soul was just like everyone else's. But your kind of spirit does not come around twice. You were not a phase in their life. You were a moment in time that heaven had specifically carved out for them, a living, breathing reminder of what wholeness could feel like. There is a deep and abiding shame in knowing that they did not just lose a relationship, they lost all access to that purity. And purity does not beg to be valued. It simply exits when it is dishonored. Now they sit in rooms full of people who talk louder, who flatter better, or who look the part. But none of them carry the sacred weight that your presence held. They are not just mourning a breakup. They are mourning the closest thing to divine love they ever touched. Number 11. They laughed at your pain, and now they are living with it. They thought it was funny. They laughed at the very moments that you were your most vulnerable, your most honest, and your most broken. They would smirk, roll their eyes, or make cruel jokes behind your back. They treated your pain like it was a weakness for them to exploit, not a wound for them to tend to. When you were at your most raw, they got bolder. When you were being honest about your feelings, they got crueler. And when you cried, they felt powerful, as if they had some sort of control over your emotions. But what they did not understand is that the spiritual law of the universe watches everything. And while they were laughing at your pain, the heavens were recording their every move. Every tear that you cried was not in vain. It was a seed. And now, those seeds have grown into a harvest of consequences that they cannot outrun. The same gut-wrenching pain that they once mocked is now visiting them. That constant restlessness that they now feel, that tightness in their chest, that perpetual emotional heaviness. It is not just heartbreak, it is a consequence. It is the echo of the very suffering that they caused you, now amplified and handed back to them by divine justice. You were not weak, you were real. And that reality terrified them, because people who cannot handle the truth often attack those who carry it. They thought that stepping on your heart would make them feel bigger, smarter, or more in control. But instead of elevating them, it only served to expose their own deep brokenness. And now, long after their laughter has stopped, they are left with a haunting silence and the painful memory of someone they can never touch again. They are starting to realize now that the joke was always on them. The same emotions that they laughed at are now gripping them at random hours of the night. They replay the cruel things they said. They cringe at the heartless things they did. And they sit in that quiet, knowing that you did not deserve any of it. That deep ache that they now carry is not just regret. It is a judgment. It is the immense weight of spiritual accountability settling into their souls. Because when you choose to be cruel to someone who meant you no harm, the universe does not forget, it recalculates. And now, they are living inside the very same pain that they once found so amusing. Number 12. They realize now that you were the only one not using them. It has finally hit them. You were the only one who ever showed up in their life without a hidden agenda. You did not want their money, their body, their attention, or their platform. You did not need to gain anything from them. You came with nothing but your heart, your loyalty, and your presence. You came with peace, not with pressure. And now that you are gone, they are completely surrounded by people who only know how to take. They are starting to notice it now, the constant emotional transactions, the conditional love, the shallow conversations that never go beneath the surface. People smile at them, praise them, and stick around only when it benefits them. But the moment the benefits run out, so do the people. It is becoming painfully clear to them that what most people in their life called love was just a convenient attachment, dressed up in sweet words and fake support. And now they miss you, not just because you were real, but because you were so incredibly rare. You did not ask them to prove anything to you. You did not measure their worth by what they could give you. You saw them, even when they had nothing to offer. You made space for their flaws, their fears, and their potential. You showed up for them in ways that they did not even know they needed until now. They thought they could replace that. They thought they could upgrade, move on, and feel the same energy with someone else. But instead, they feel emptier and lonelier than ever before because nobody who is currently around them truly cares about their soul. They can sense it. Everything feels like a game, a deal, or a performance. No one checks on their soul. They just check on their usefulness. And now, sitting in the middle of all that noise, they remember the quiet safety of your love, the warmth of being seen without ever being used. The realization stings because it is not just about losing you. It is about realizing that the world is full of takers and that they threw away the one person who never kept score. You were the realest one in the room, and now they are surrounded by constant reminders that they foolishly traded gold for glitter. Number 13. They did not just fail you, they failed themselves. They did not just fail you. They failed themselves in the deepest way possible. You were not just some random person who crossed their path. You were a divine investment that was sent to elevate their entire life, not just emotionally, but spiritually, mentally, and even generationally. You brought with you a light, a wisdom, and a divine direction. Your energy challenged them to grow. Your presence called something higher out of them, something that they were not used to facing. And instead of rising to that sacred occasion, they chose to run. They chose comfort over growth. They chose sabotage over surrender. They chose their ego over their evolution. You were alignment in human form, a walking, talking reminder of who they could become if they would just step into their own healing. You did not just love them. You showed them a living vision of their own higher self. You believed in them even when they did not believe in themselves. You supported them through their inner chaos. But instead of embracing that precious opportunity to evolve, they pushed you away. They broke the very thing that was in the process of building them. They told themselves that they were protecting their independence, preserving their power, or avoiding being tied down. But the truth is, they were scared. They were scared of accountability. They were scared of being truly seen. And they were scared of transforming into someone that they did not yet recognize, even though that version of themselves was their highest potential. So they clung to their old habits, their old fears, and their old wounds. And in doing so, they did not just lose you. They forfeited their one and only shot at becoming the person they were always meant to be. Now, every time they see someone else stepping into their purpose, every time they hear your name mentioned, every time they are reminded of the deep peace they used to feel in your presence, something inside of them sinks. Because they know that you were not just a source of love. You were the shift, the lesson, and the launch pad. And instead of catching that blessing and rising with it, they tripped over their own fragile ego and let it all go. What they lost was not just the relationship. It was the future version of themselves that you were sent to help them unlock. Number 14. They are not sorry because they love you. They are sorry because they lost their only ladder out of hell. Let us call it what it is. A lot of them are not sorry because they truly love you. They are sorry because you were the only thing that was standing between them and the full, crushing weight of their own mess. Your presence in their life shielded them from themselves. You were the ladder out of their own personal hell, the dysfunction, the emotional chaos, the generational pain, the spiritual numbness. And now that you are gone, they are completely stuck with the very demons that you were helping them outrun. They did not realize how much of their peace was being borrowed from you, how much of their clarity came from just being around your groundedness, how many of their good days were the direct result of you praying for them, speaking life into them, and covering them in ways that they never even noticed. Now that you are no longer accessible to them, that comfort is gone. That spiritual shield has been lifted. And what is left? A mirror. A brutal, unforgiving mirror that is showing them everything that they tried so hard to hide from you, from the world, and most of all, from themselves. They are not grieving the loss of the connection as much as they are grieving the loss of the protection that it gave them. You were the exception to their usual pattern. You were the one person who did not treat them like a project or a problem. You did not come to fix them. You came to love them into their own healing. And they ruined it. Not because they did not feel the power of your love, but because they did not feel worthy of it. So instead of rising to meet your high frequency, they tried to drag you down into their own confusion and self-doubt. When you finally left, they were completely exposed. Now they are not weeping out of love. They are panicking out of a profound loss. Because your exit did not just mean the end of a relationship. It meant the complete collapse of their spiritual shortcut. And now they are left to climb out of their own darkness the long, hard way, alone. Without the voice that reminded them of their own inner light. Without the love that saw through their pain. And for the first time, they have to face what you already knew. They were never afraid of losing you. They were afraid of having to face themselves without you there to soften the blow. You were the exception to their usual pattern. You were the one person who did not treat them like a project or a problem. You did not come to fix them. You came to love them into their own healing. And they ruined it. Not because they did not feel the power of your love, but because they did not feel worthy of it. So instead of rising to meet your high frequency, they tried to drag you down into their own confusion and self-doubt. When you finally left, they were completely exposed. Now they are not weeping out of love. They are panicking out of a profound loss. Because your exit did not just mean the end of a relationship. It meant the complete collapse of their spiritual shortcut. And now they are left to climb out of their own darkness the long, hard way, alone, without the voice that reminded them of their own inner light, without the love that saw through their pain. And for the first time, they have to face what you already knew. They were never afraid of losing you. They were afraid of having to face themselves without you there to soften the blow. They did not just lose you. They lost alignment, they lost protection, and they lost a version of themselves that they will never meet again. What they so carelessly dismissed was not ordinary. It was sacred. You were not just a partner, a friend, or a lover. You were a divine interruption to their own self-destruction. You were the soul that came without any strings attached, without any schemes, and without any selfish motives. And still, they fumbled you as if you were disposable. Now, life is showing them the truth with a brutal clarity. The energy that they thought they could find elsewhere is gone. The peace that they mistook for simple background noise is now deafening in its absence. And the grace that they assumed would always be there has now been replaced by consequences that echo much louder than their ego ever did. Let them sit with it. Because your role in their life was not to suffer endlessly so that they could grow comfortably. Your presence was a precious gift, and it had a time limit. They treated you like an option, but you were their lifeline. Now they are left with nothing but the shadows of what could have been, while you walk forward, no longer carrying the heavy weight of their potential, but just your own. You did not lose anything. You completed the assignment. You gave, you loved, and you showed up fully. And when it was time, you left with your integrity completely intact. That is the win. That is the freedom. Because you were never here to be worshipped, used, or drained. You were here to reflect God in human form. And now that you have moved on, so has the grace that came with you. They do not regret losing you because they have suddenly become enlightened. They regret it because reality has finally pulled the mask off of their own face. The truth is clear. You were never the fool. You were the favor. And favor does not return to where it was fumbled. So hold your head high, because your presence was their breakthrough, and your absence is their lesson. If this message from God Connection has stirred something within you, if you have seen yourself in these words, or have finally felt understood, then this space is for you. Do not leave without becoming a part of this community. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because this is not just a channel. It is a safe haven for chosen ones, for deep thinkers, and for those who are walking through silent wars with an unshakable grace. Like this video if it has spoken a truth to your spirit. Comment below and let your voice be heard. Your story matters here. And if you know someone who has been carrying this same weight in silence, share this message with them. Healing is contagious when it is rooted in truth. There is so much more coming your way. More revelations, more raw truth, and more soul-level clarity. So turn on your notifications and stay connected. You were not just meant to survive. You were born to awaken. Let us rise together. God bless you.